What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, Mr. Tomo2304 here, and I hope you're excited as I am for tomorrow's Bleach chapter 503, where... Oh. Well, it looks like we're not getting a chapter tomorrow. There's always next week. Oh. Okay, there's no chapter next week either. Well, in the meantime, let's have a discussion, shall we? In this new playlist of videos, I'm going to be doing talks and discussions on certain topics. They're going to be relatively long videos because of that, so I hope you can bear with it. As you can see from the title above, the first discussion is going to be on my 5 most overrated characters in the Bleach series. This is purely from a battle standpoint, so basically it's based on what we've seen so far, what we know they can do, what they have, we know like their potential. Anything else is pure speculation, although that's welcome in the comment section below. So yeah, let me know your top 5 overrated characters. Let me know what you think about my list. But yeah, let's get started. It's going to be a relatively long video, so if you don't want to watch it, then feel free to turn it off. But here we go. My first character. These are in no particular order, but I suppose it sort of goes from least overrated to most overrated, rated vaguely. But yeah, here we go. The first one, Shinji Hirako. Former captain of the 5th Division turned Vizard turned captain of the 5th Division. His Shikai ability, Sakanade, is what we've seen from him so far, as well as a Hollow Mask and, the usual Vizard abilities that come with it, such as Sero. He's obviously Captain level Soul Reaper. But the problem is, the Vizards, particularly back in Fake Karakura Town, were blown out of proportion. Like, we went into the battle and the Vizards hadn't turned up yet, and everyone was expecting an enormous almost whitewash. They were going to obliterate the Espada, leaving only Aizen and his lieutenants in their wake. So yeah, we were like, okay, these Vizards, after we saw Turn Back the Pendulum, these are centuries old Shinigami. They've got Hollow powers and Shinigami powers. They're going to be unbeatable. But they weren't. In fact, they got they mopped the floor with them, to be completely honest. Rose and Love got obliterated by Stark. Hiyori and Lisa, they sort of fought Haribel, but that was a bit of a rubbish fight. In fact, the only Vizard to win his fight was Hachi after he destroyed Baragon in a show of pure badass. As for our overrated character here, Shinji, well, he unveiled his Shikai for the first time, as did a lot of the Vizards. Sakanade, the ability to flip an opponent's world upside down, inside out, backwards, forwards, sideways. You name it, you'll kind of lose your mind a little bit in his inverted world. But the problem is, it's just not that good an ability. Instantly, it's a difficult ability to overcome. But when you learn it, when you eventually work it out, you can surpass it. It's Aizen. You can't really take a fight with Aizen too seriously in a kind of rankings situation because he's just that overpowered. But really, he makes a good point. Shinji's ability is literally just a trick of the eye. You can work it out like that. Well, not like that. But for someone like Aizen, you can. But for the regular fighter, Shinji might land in a few hits. But then, once they've worked it out, there's not much that you can do to stop it. Shinji's ability, from what we've seen so far, doesn't have any extra offensive capabilities. So, people hyped up Shinji, and then, to be honest, they're still doing it against the Sternritter now. People put him as one of, I've seen in the forums, he's considered senior captain level. I don't really understand why. He was, the de facto leader of the Vizards. Doesn't necessarily make him stronger than any of them, although it's highly, speculated that he is, but why? We haven't seen anything out of Shinji that would, get us to believe he's the best Vizard, let alone one of the greatest captains. I admit he's powerful, I admit he's got experience, but he's overrated. And what we've seen from these Quincy so far is that they're not to be trifled with, and I personally think it's going to take a little more than collapse Sakanade to take one of them out. On to overrated character number 2. This one might be a bit unpopular with the fans, but here he is. It's the ever-popular 4th Espada, Aqueora. Now, why Aqueora? He's actually one of my favourite characters. I'm not some crazed fanboy, but I really liked his design. I mean, even his first release, like you can see here, it just looks really cool. So why is he overrated? Well, it doesn't help that he has a second release form. And, you know, you have people that say Aqueora can just trash anyone now. Oh, he's number 1 Espada now. You know, he's definitely the strongest Espada. But that's really hard to base on. You can't base it on anything. You know, the Espada never actually really took each other on. You had a few skirmishes here and there, mostly verbal, about as violent as the Espadas got towards each other was Aqueora versus Grimjow, and Grimjow beat him. You know, no two ways about it. Grimjow got behind him and trapped him in the negation. So Aqueora, he was, you know, really put up to be the first Espada for a long time, and Kubo revealed his twist that he was actually the 4th. And, you know, I think that's where he stays. I don't think he's any stronger than the 4th. Okay, maybe his second release form puts him perhaps stronger than Harabel, but I don't think she deserved the 3rd release anyway, but the 3rd rank anyway, but that's a completely different story. As Kubo has revealed in his data book, Kaiba ranked the Espada in terms of Reiatsu, not power, not fighting level. They were Reiatsu. That's why Yami was 0, because after he'd eaten loads, he got the most Reiatsu, and then before came the 0 Espada. So Aqueora, you can't really base his battle on, you know, just the fact that he has a second release form. It just perhaps means that he's trained a lot longer than anyone else, or he's able to muster a lot of Reiatsu. Yes, he has increased speed. Yes, it looks like he has increased attack power. But the only move he seems to have is the Lanza del Relámpago, and to be honest, he's crap shot with it. You know, he missed Ichigo, like, just completely by a mile. So, you know, I mean, yes, okay, it's implied that he's a lot stronger, but to be honest, from when he fought Ichigo looking like this to his second release form, Ichigo was pretty beat up anyway. So that it's not like there would be any dramatic change. You wouldn't be able to tell whether Aqueora was kicking his ass that much better in his second release or not. And so for that reason, that's why I put Aqueora on my overrated characters list. And number 3 is another Espada, and one that we've already mentioned. It's Grimjow. Now, Grimjow is the 6th Espada. In terms of Reiatsu, he's therefore that makes him about the 7th, unless Wonder Weiss is even higher than him. Therefore, he's the 8th. Really, he's not that powerful. When he first fought Ichigo and absolutely destroyed him, Ichigo was in a severe state of depression because of his Hollow Mask, and his Hollow just trying to take over. And the second time Ichigo fought him, he demolished him. He absolutely destroyed Grimjow. Grimjow was about to go in his release form before Aqueora got him out of there. So, even back then, Grimjow was never that strong. You know, he just caught Ichigo at a good time. Any of the captains could have probably wiped the floor with him, apart from maybe, like, Mayuri. But, I mean, Mayuri, he's pretty powerful on his own. Again, that's another story again. We're talking about Grimjow here. And, you know, people, especially in the new arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War, I've seen people go, because, you know, with Chapter 500, spoilers in case you haven't read it, the sword that came out to Urahara, everyone was like, oh, it's Grimjow, it's Grimjow, it's Grimjow. He could have easily cut Courage in half if he's had 2 years worth of training. You know, he might have even attained a second release form. So what? Even if Grimjow has attained a second release form, it doesn't mean anything. He's still going to be, what, the 3rd, if the Espada was still around, maybe the 3rd strongest. You know, he's not enough to take on these Quincy, I'll tell you that. And his release form wasn't even that great. He gave him a few nifty abilities, like shooting missiles out of his elbow, and that Des Garon attack, which he missed with anyway. So, like I said, a lot of it is based on speculation anyway, because Team Kubo doesn't really let them show off their best moves, because if he did, it would probably tear the good guys apart. So that's why Grimjow is 3rd on my list. And now, the last 2 characters, who I consider to be probably the most overrated characters in the series, are Shinigami, and you're extremely familiar with them. Again, this might be unpopular, but this one, Byakuya Kuchiki. Now, I don't care if this is in bad taste or not, as after what's happened in the most recent chapter, he's overrated. He's a cool character. I like all the characters on this list, don't get me wrong. But when has Byakuya ever done anything of real merit? Okay, yes, he duked it out with Ichigo. That was cool, and he did prove he was, you know, pretty powerful. But say Yamamoto, Kyoraku, or Jushiro, or Unohana had fought Ichigo, they'd probably tore him up and spat him out. Okay? And Byakuya lost to him anyway. So then what does Byakuya do after that? Well, he takes on the 7th Espada, Zamari, so that's even weaker than Grimjow, and he still takes a serious amount of damage off him. He loses, he loses a wrist and one of his ankles as well, like his foot, whatever. He loses control of them and he ends up having to cut them off, cut the connection. So Byakuya, he's not that great. And then what does he do after that? He fights Tsukishima Shukaro, a human. Remember back in the beginning of the series, Byakuya was all high and mighty about how weak a human was. His lines like, you're slow even to fall. And like Tsukishima, he takes him around town. He does Byakuya some serious damage, more than Zamari did. He tears up Byakuya's arm. And let's face it, ever since the battle with Ichigo, Byakuya has gone into Bankai at almost every single sign of danger. Like when he battles Yami, he Bankai's straight away. And, Byakuya just hasn't done that much. And, spoiler, he just got ripped apart by Not in the most recent chapter. So, he's overrated. He's not as good as people think he is. I know he's consistently given a title of one of the most all-rounded and best captains in the Soul Society. But from whose viewpoint is that? Is that from the commoners in the Rukongai? Is that from the low-level Shinigami that have just come out of the Shino Academy? Anyway, in my opinion, the most overrated character in the whole series is Kenpachi Zaraki. Now, he's a cool character. He's a great character. He loves to fight. In the Soul Society arc, I can understand the hype, because he's built up to be this machine that doesn't go down. He's built up to be this monster that has a black skeleton of Reiatsu around him. He draws with Ichigo, let's face it, even though he kind of says that Ichigo won. And then he goes on to trash Komamura and Tosun in a 2-on-1. He was a great character back then. But to be honest, ever since then, he's not done anything massively noteworthy. He fought Neutruz, the 5th Espada, and almost died. That there tells me something straight away. What would happen if he came up against Aqueora? Would he have been killed? I mean, yeah, Neutra had the strongest Hiero. It was almost impervious until Kenpachi got used to it. But the thing is, Aqueora or someone like that wouldn't fight the way Neutra does. They wouldn't come swinging guns blazing because they don't think they can be hurt. They would outmaneuver Kenpachi and they would destroy him. Kenpachi's just a Shinigami. He doesn't have Hiero or Blut or any of these things that can protect them. He would go down, he would bleed, he would get hurt. Like he does against Neutra. He says, if I don't start fighting seriously, I'm gonna get seriously hurt. And then he has his kendo thing, where he grabs his sword with 2 hands and does a colossal slash. I'm fairly in the belief that most Shinigami could do this if they really wanted to. It's not anything exclusive to Kenpachi. And then, of course, he's got his eye patch removal, massive surge of Reiatsu. But even that wasn't enough to defeat Ichigo. Even that wasn't enough to defeat Neutra from the off. And then you've got Giriko. That wasn't even really a fight against Kutsuzawa. He just one-shots him. But then again, Kutsuzawa's a human, so, your sword would just cut through them. Even more of a testament to why Byakuya was overrated. And now that we've got the final Holy War, there are people that are saying that Kenpachi is just going to walk up to these Sternritters and just tear them apart. And yes, at the end of 502, he's got 3 Sternritters impaled on his sword on his back. It's impressive. It's very cinematic. That's what Kenpachi's all about. He's all about the cinematic action. He's about ferocity. He's about looking cool while he does it. But does that mean he's actually any good? He doesn't know any Kido. He's not very well versed in the Shinigami arts at all. He basically just swings a sword like a bit of a lunatic and gets away with it. I don't think it's going to continue though in this Holy War, and now especially since he's up against the blonde Bishi Dragon Sternritter and Buckbeard, he's going to get taken apart, to be quite honest. So yeah, that was my list of the 5 most overrated characters in Bleach. What did you think? And who are your 5 most overrated characters in Bleach? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe. And yeah, thanks. I'll probably do another video tomorrow. I know this one was quite long. It's run a little bit longer than I thought it would. But yep. See you next time. Until then.